No, it's iSummit.
Yeah, it's just for some reason I'm not connected.
Yeah.
Because you can actually.
I can't connect to it either. I got kicked off of it.
I got kicked
Yeah,
off.
I think it's,
Hey.
yeah.
No, please do reconnect.
Right, I'm gonna start in 1 minute. I know some people had to stop, use the restroom and all of that and stuff. On the presentation, so your slides will change when I tell it to change, which is a great thing to do. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and minimize the code, the pin, but it you can read really tiny, it's up there as well. If not, just follow along as well. So thank you guys so much for coming to this session, Digital Tools for Visual Literacy. And we have some people who are coming into the room right now. This shows me that we have 5 people who also connected with us through the Nearpod. The first slide that showed up was just a link. I work for, and I'll tell a little bit about who I am in just a second. I work for Lipscomb University in Nashville, Tennessee. I work in our College of Education, and I have many hats, but my favorite is that I'm the director for the Technology Integration Masters and EDS programs. And one thing that we do is we offer a Tech Tool of the Month, a little article, and so I have a little link there if you'd like to sign up. And little things that come every single month that to your inbox you can read through, and it's practical strategies that you can take. So since this is visual literacy and looking at images, I decided to create a little word cloud describing myself. So I work at Lipscomb. I love learning. My son's name is Jared. I'm in education. GBO stands for Go Big Orange. I'm a UT Vols fan. Amazon, I love to order things off of Amazon.com. I seem to have packages coming every day. My husband's name is Steve. I'm on Twitter. My other son is Parker. So lots of little things about myself. Then I decided to take it a step further and use the tool visual.ly, visually, to kind of take my Twitter profile and create a little image of myself. So I, based on what I post, I have a geeky grin, I'm a techie, and I have some Twitter traction, which is pretty cool as well. So let's take a look at who's here today. So if you're with us in the Nearpod, I have added a drawing, and so it's asking you to draw a symbol on the state where you live. And so as you are writing on there, you can just draw a little symbol, then it will show up on the screen, which is a pretty cool little thing. So if you're a math teacher, this is great. You can put word problems on there, or different things. Science teacher, they can label items. So this is a cool little way. Oh, here we go. And you may have, if you teach multiple sections, I taught middle school for several years, so if you teach multiple sections, you may assign every student a number where they don't write their names. And then we also talk about our roles and responsibilities with Nearpod, and so we're not all going to be James Bond or different people like that. Even though, like today, if you wanted to be someone else, you could. Okay, it's thinking about it. She's really thinking about it. All right, I'm going to move on. But you see, you get the idea of how to use that particular tool within Nearpod. And there was the state picture. So our learning targets for today is we're going to talk a little bit about research that supports visual literacy as a powerful learning and teaching strategy. We're going to understand the definition of visual literacy and how it applies to the classroom, and then explore how to use some digital tools to enhance visual literacy. So they say a picture's worth 1,000 words. All right, so looking here, how do these students feel about school right now? More. Okay, this is early elementary, you know, so right now that's saying a lot, you know, and we have the images. And so we want our learning to be engaging and not boring. We want students to be there and to see purpose behind what we're doing. All right, take a look at this image. Where do your eyes go first? The piñata. All right, advertisers have known for years the power of images. All right, this is purpose, you know, they did this on purpose. We have the piñata here. All right, I love this because, you know, if you take Vioxx, you don't have arthritis pain as a teacher, you have happy students, they're all engaged and ready to go. Apparently we can bring a weapon to school because we got to knock down the piñata. And we only have 5 students in our class. So this is a great drug for us to take, obviously. Well, but the big thing right there is the use of color, the use of the image in the middle. If we had seen this first, with all of the lovely side effects of Vioxx, it would not grab my attention. I would not be interested in learning more about it. I'm like, no way. So let's look at one special tool, digital tool. Gotta love technology. There we go. Come on. Get it back here. Am I switching? Okay. Okay, here we go. Yes. All right. That might be on here. All right, so that will be on there and available for you. So what exactly is visual literacy? What do you think of when you hear the words visual literacy?
What they see.
What they see.
Understanding.
Understanding, making sense, all right? Think about the word literacy. What is literacy?
Comprehension.
Comprehension.
Reading, writing.
Reading, writing. Consumption of content. Producing rather than consuming. That's the reading versus the writing aspect of literacy. Effective communication. Because it's one thing to have it, but it's another thing to actually be able to understand and comprehend it. So visual literacy is the reading and writing of images. The reading is what when you see an image, the writing and what's being communicated. The writing is the taking the information and using it to teach, to impact other people. I think through with my own children when they were little, 2 and 3. Okay, they could not read the word McDonald's. But they knew exactly what, when they saw the golden arches, you know, and the power of that image and how it has sustained. So visual literacy is using images to communicate more effectively. The eyes are the most powerful sense. There are more connections to the brain from the eyes. I looked up some statistics. We process images 60,000 times faster than words. 90% of information transmitted to the brain is visual. The brain can process 36,000 visual cues in an hour. Almost 50% of your brain is involved in visual processing. Black and white images garner your attention for about 2/3 of a second. Color images garner your attention for 2+ seconds. And in today's age, that is huge. The average consumer's attention span is only about 8 seconds. 40% of nerve fibers are linked to the retina. and the use of visuals improves learning outcomes by about 400%. So this is powerful. 65% of people are visual learners. So it's very important that we combine that visual, that auditory, that kinesthetic, and include all of those in our classrooms. Richard Mayer's study on multimedia learning said he studied like 17 studies that had an image and then voiceover narration, and on that, recall was boosted 42%, but transfer, that application of the knowledge, increased 89% by seeing the visual, then hearing the words behind it. Anybody know Robert Marzano? Classroom instruction that works. His 9 high yield strategies. So the first one is identifying similarities and differences. That yields a 45 percentile gain. All right, I love this. We could do, I use pick stitch here, and we could do some compare and some contrast here. Students should compare, classify, create metaphors with non-linguistic or graphic organization. All right, speaking of compare and contrast with images, all right, this is very common at my household. We could do a lot of identifying similarities and differences here. All right, which way is the right way?
The one on the left.
Left. How do you think the one on the right?
My daddy is the only one I know of.
My 11-year-old.
If you have a cat, because they'll unroll the
Yeah, if you have my 11-year-old right there. However, I wanted to make a point of the correct way to do it. I'm impressed that he will change the role. I have to say that. But according to the patent in 1891, here's the images supporting the correct way to do it. All right, so, powerful. Images are powerful. All right, 27% with Marzano for non-linguistic representations. So this is doing those models, those mental images, drawings, pictographs, concept maps. That's another thing with research. 22%, those advanced organizers, just questions, cues, and advanced organizers. So offering things where students can map out their learning. So let's talk about visuals over time. Obviously, we've had visuals for a long time. Since cavemen, we've had our images. So how have the stories changed over time? Are we still telling stories? Absolutely. I think through TED Talks, all right? They invite us into a story, and they support it a lot of times with just images in the background as they tell. And I'm captivated. Those 10 to 15 minutes, I am captivated, and I am intent on finding out what they're going to tell me. We all have a story to tell. Have a smartphone in hand? We all have a device to tell our stories. Today's students are telling their stories through their devices. The key is to identify what stories we want to tell, the most effective means for telling them, and how to be literate with them in today's society. With digital age literacies, using devices to effectively communicate. I know for my 15-year-old, okay, I try to call him, he will not answer the phone. I send a text, I get a message right back. So that is how he communicates. He's had Instagram for a while, and I follow him and several of his friends because I'm going to find out what they're doing on Instagram and making sure that they post appropriate images. And that's how they're taking and telling what they're doing. This is how they're documenting their life. And then he wanted, I asked him about Facebook. He's like, oh no Facebook. You guys are on Facebook. And I'm like, all right. And so then finally he wanted to be on Twitter, but he doesn't hardly use it. He just follows a few people and stuff. But Instagram is #1. We took a survey of our college freshmen of their top social media, and Instagram was the #1 social media that they use. And I'm going to talk about social media. Connections to standards. Whatever school you're at, you have standards. And so for me, thinking through visual literacy, I'm in the state of Tennessee. So I looked at the Tennessee academic standards. And here are a few of the connections of visual literacy. Integrate and evaluate content presented in diverse media and formats, including visually and quantitatively, as well as in words. Prepare for and participate effectively in a range of conversations and collaborations with diverse partners, building on each other's ideas and expressing their own clearly and persuasively. So that's that communication part as well. And I could go on with the Tennessee academic standards that I found for visual literacy. So visual literacy is embedded within our standards. I worked with a school this last year who's went on this huge standard revision process for their school, and that's one of the things that's been included in the standard. It's cross-curricular. Literacy, visual literacy is not just for language arts teachers. It's for all teachers. It's project-based, if you do project-based learning or challenge-based learning. It's enhanced with technology. When I talk about technology, I talk about technology a lot. It's pedagogy always before technology and how technology supports the learning. And it's not an add-on. It should be infused in everything that you do. So we're going to take a look at some digital tools to enhance visual literacy. You will have access, and you can actually click on the link if you're following along nearby. It will also be included on the wiki for the conference. I've created a website. Now let's see if I can go somewhere. Now, with just resources for you guys. Now, I do tell people this is not very visual literate because I have a lot of words on some of the pages because I want to give you the research to support visual literacy. So I have some information on here, but under digital tools is where I have included a lot of things, and I keep adding to it as I keep presenting this and showing this. So all the different areas that we'll talk about, we'll have some resources, some tools, and some ideas for the classroom and with all of the tools, so you can access that and learn more. So we're gonna do a little icebreaker, okay? I need you to get in groups of 2 or 3 right now. Let's go. Excellent, I love that, thank you.
You did sideways or?
All right.
You don't know what, just the word?
We'll just do one big.
You can have 4.
Okay.
I'll allow you to have 4. All right, so what you're gonna do, we're gonna do a progressive story. I'm gonna show an image, so the person who has the longest hair in your group is gonna start first, and then you're gonna go clockwise. Every time that I switch to a new image, the next person's gonna start adding on to the story. So you're gonna keep adding on to the same story, okay? And I'll give you I'll say, ready, switch. So that way you know when to switch. And whenever we come to the last image, I'll let you know this is the last image, okay? All right, who's the longest hair person in each group? All right, excellent. Ready? Here we go.
I am so mad. Are we divided or? Very angry.
She didn't say switch.
No, but I can't name it.
I'm putting it on Instagram.
Ready? Switch.
There was a mama monkey and a baby monkey.
Well, I'm gonna go to.
Okay, and across the way, an elephant, finding some bananas, and so he was eating bananas while the commotion was going on. And he was having a great day, he was smiling, and he got his food for the morning. But the waterfall was getting busy, and there was a lot of other animals coming down, so.
Ready? Switch.
Wow. I think they were thinks that they're all just visits. She doesn't understand why they just can't reach the side.
But I think the real problem is the fact that there are not enough.
Ready? Switch.
Oh, you are so right. The problem is there are not enough bananas.
The whole family of them was hanging outside, laughing at the giraffe and the elephant and the.
Ready? Switch.
Sorry, I heard. And then everybody wants to try to tweet out. Let's do that.
It's all over social media. Of course, not on Facebook because that would be our parents posting about our drama.
Ready, switch.
Wait. Got something. You must have the wrong one. Stop back up a little bit. Let's see how we can
Let's start a new routine. Not sure what we're gonna do next.
Ready, switch.
Oh, guys, just need to lay back here.
So the cats.
Calm down, let's
Say, I think,
join.
Or look, that looks as if he or she is saying, what's going on?
Good.
Ready,
Back in the jail.
switch.
Oh,
They're so sure about the
They started fighting
about
about it.
where they have long the struggle between them. So birds are sitting
That's what I thought about when all those lookers and there lots of drama. That was all
It's their battle cry, actually, like picture each other.
Ready, switch, and this is our last one.
And finally,
Everybody
we're showing his
bananas.
younger son.
The birds went and helped steal the bananas, and the baboons got fed because somebody threw them into their own mouth. And we all went through our drama just like Elvin said.
Tweeting. And that it's best to stay in the mountains away from all the commotion
Wrap up at
compared to living by the water.
1, and give yourselves a round of applause. All right, so as we come back together, all right, what are your reactions to this activity?
You have to think quickly.
Think quickly.
I like the collaboration, working with other people.
Collaboration,
You have to listen.
have to listen.
Yeah.
Did all three groups tell the same story? No. I was listening in to all three of them and did not tell the same story. Did you, when it wasn't your turn and you saw an image, did you go to where you thought the story should go? Absolutely. We bring our own prior knowledge and experiences when we see these images. So the same picture doesn't necessarily tell the same story. And we saw that with all three of the groups. How many of you all participated? Everyone. How many of you laughed? Everyone. Lots of laughter. How many of you fell asleep?
Nobody.
No. Every single person was engaged in this activity. So I like to use animals for this the first time I do this because they're pretty safe to do this. But think about how you could use this technique. What are some ways that you could use this?
Get them to elaborate when they're writing.
Elaborate when writing.
Or predict maybe what they think might come next.
Prediction.
Social studies content when your events or in history. Or
Absolutely.
They can tell the story.
Tell a story. How about a hook when you're starting a new unit?
Yeah.
Bring in an image and then just have them free write for about 5 minutes about the image. This is great for beginning of the year building community. Okay, I love this activity because everyone gets to participate. So those students who sometimes feel like they don't belong, they have a chance to belong and they have a chance to share their part of the story. This is great I love to do this for faculty meetings and just, lighten the mood a little bit and to have some fun with it as well. Where could you use this in a lesson? Anywhere. You can do it for an intro, like I said. You can use it as a review.
Check for understanding.
Check for understanding, absolutely. So it's a new way of thinking. Who provides the images?
Google.
Starts off with her teacher, but after you do this a few times, the students can provide the images. This is powerful that we can put it. So who does the learning? Everyone does the learning, all right? And I'm going to show you some example. I think it's with some digital images. I'm going to show you an example of what some students did with supporting their own images. So I'm going to tell you a story. Okay. I love taking pictures of food. I have a friend who's like, I don't understand why you post so many pictures of food. I'm like, I just love food and love taking pictures of good food. But I'm going to tell you a story. So John Montague was a British statesman living in the United Kingdom. He loved playing cards. He loved eating while playing cards, especially strips of beef. To prevent cards from getting greasy, he decided to put the beef between 2 pieces of bread. And that's how John Montague became the 4th Earl of Sandwich. Okay. Now, when I showed you the image, did you think I would be going to a history lesson?
No.
Not at all. But now, every single time I see a picture of a hamburger, I think of John Montague as the 4th Earl of Sandwich now. Now, when I taught middle school language arts, and I would have my students do presentations, and I fell into this trap for so many years, this is what their presentations would look like. Bulleted list. And then whenever they stood up to present, this is how they would present. John Montague was a British statesman living in the United Kingdom. He loved playing cards. He loved eating while playing cards. You know, and they kept like moving in front of the screen, and they didn't face the audience. And so now that I've been using the power of visual images and digital images, the students are not allowed to put the words on the slide. They're going to invite us into a story. And so the image is there to support it, because that's what the whole goal of the presentation. And we've seen that with the Death by PowerPoint. And if you notice, I do not have a lot of words on a lot of the images that I'm using, okay? Because I'm trying to model this as well. So I was talking about students using images and them providing their images. So I had the chance to work with another professor, and we were working with a high school social studies class, and they were studying the Crusades. So they studied the Crusades, and so as a review, the teacher said, I want everyone to go out and provide your own image of what you learned throughout the study. So a lot of students came back with images like this. And with images, a lot of times we have students, learn how to give credit where they got the images. So the students went out, gathered their images, got into groups of 5 or 6, and then they had to debate which image would represent their group, which was a great conversation, getting critical, and that's where a lot of the learning happened, because one group, the student brought in this. Now, I don't watch this show, but I am well aware of Family Guy. And apparently, because I had to ask, because I don't watch the show, apparently Peter Griffin and the giant chicken have this ongoing battle all the time. And then I heard it was on the actual TV show, the first fight scene between them was 6 minutes long, a 30-minute show or something like that. And so they brought this image and talked about how the Crusades was ongoing like that. And then you would go away, and then they would come back again. And they were able to, and after hearing the students talk, I'm like, that totally makes sense.
Yeah.
So this is the image that the students selected for their group. And I love it because it took something that's happening in their real world and was able to apply that to the content. Haiku Deck is one of the first tools I'm going to talk about. That is what I've used to create my slides for this presentation. Haiku Deck is a free tool. You can go to haikudeck.com, or you can go they have an iPad app and phone app that you can use. It limits the amount of text you can put on a screen. Also, you can search for millions of Creative Commons images, and you'll see down here it'll say CC and give the credit for where the image came from. So I could type, for this one, because I didn't have any particular content, I just typed in colorful, and this is one of the images that popped up. But if I was studying migration, then something could pop up. And that's how with those animals, I just typed in giraffe, and got a picture of a giraffe, and monkey, and so forth. This is a great tool that you can use to do things like you read a passage, and then have students go into haiku deck and select 5 images to represent what they learned in the passage. I've done this. My oldest, when he was in 7th grade, he used haiku deck for vocabulary in his classroom, the academic vocabulary. And so I saw him one night. I'm like, hey, send me that presentation here. And he's like, Mom. But you know, it was great because I remember one of them being plateau. So he typed in the word plateau, typed in the definition, and then searched images for plateau, and all these beautiful images came up. They emailed them to the teacher. The teacher can then print them out and make a word wall using the student's work on the actual wall. You can use it for icebreakers. Use it for writing prompts. Like I said, I use it for presentations, virtual field trips. You can go through and search some of the images and create your own virtual field trip and take students where you might not be able. You've heard of the 6-word stories. This is a great that the students can then choose their 6 words and then choose an image to support it. Some other visual thinking tools, inspiration maps, Padlet, and Pic Collage. Inspiration maps, there's a light version on iPad or phone that you can download, and there's lots of graphic organizers that you can choose from. I use it a lot, and then it tells me I've filled up my space, so then I go and delete the ones that I've done so I can continue to use the free one. But it's also, you can get it through the computer, and I remember when I had inspiration like years ago, it was on a CD, and they bought like 6 for our school district, and we had to like rotate who was going to get the little concept maps onto their computer. So now we don't even have to do that. We can just go there and we can do it. Padlet, Padlet.com is a fabulous tool that you can use to create virtual bulletin boards. So this is one. I actually stole this from my youngest son from his science class. They were studying the 5 steps of an active virus. So they had to collect images and then they wrote what happened in each of those steps. All right, and so he was able, like, it was amazing. Like 3 weeks later, I asked him about it, and he could still remember what he had used. Pic Collage, that's the one where I did the compare contrast, where you can have one thing on one side, and you can have something on the other side that you can use to compare and contrast. You can put people in groups of 3. Find 3 things that are similar in the 2 images, 3 things that are different in the images. This is from Inspiration Maps, so this was a comparing. So I was working with 2nd graders here on comparing Cinderella stories. So that advanced organizer that Marzano talked about on students remembering what was going on. Infographics, and I know there's an infographics session going on later on today. Or maybe tomorrow. There's one going on now and one tomorrow that I want to look at, because you can see 90% of the information transmitted to the brain is visual. All right, now I just read through a lot of these statistics earlier, but I love the power of infographics. When I see an infographic online or in an email, I'm able to process a lot of information quickly. It amazes me by limiting the amount of text, making numbers certain sizes, using those images, how I can remember the information. There's some great tools. Yeah, so here's some examples. So this one is just a blank document that students created using photosynthesis vocabulary words.
Oh, cool.
Here's one, and like this one, I'm going to remember this one because I'm going to remember where the cow is located on the page. Oh, and I love this one too because the vocabulary right here and the different colors used to distinguish. Okay, this one, talking about habitat loss, causes. Did you know, like this right here, I'm drawn to that question mark, and I want to know more information about what's going on. Healthy versus unhealthy eating. And I've included on that digital, the Weebly I created for the Noun Project. It's a great place where you can go and get some of these little icons that you can use. And I like this, the students put their sources. around the outside. That's a lot of information right there in one document. I've started thinking through this because I teach some online classes at Lipscomb, and so instead of doing my traditional presentation, I create an infographic, and then I will go through the infographic and talk and add things to it. So it's great for students. Create an infographic to like do what did you learn about, or bring it in. Have students the beginning of the year create a Who Am I infographic to practice and play with it, because students are not afraid to use the technology. I see that all the time. They just start clicking on buttons and they go for it. Alternative to posters, the typical posters that we do. And I'm going to show you something else with posters in just a minute. An exit ticket. Have them work together to create kind of an exit ticket. Social media is another digital tool that you can use for visual literacy. Instagram. Now, this was an Instagram account, and I just used a picture from mine. I took this because I loved this picture of this tree that I took, and I took that at Shiloh when I went to visit last October. I was like, that's just gorgeous. So I have a couple of friends who are English teachers who they use Instagram. They create a class Instagram account. So even if you're elementary level, you can create an Instagram account to tell the story of what's going on in your classroom. Take pictures of the students learning or what the activities they're participating in. Number one, administrators can't be in your classroom every single minute, so you're documenting the learning taking place. And then it's great because parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, they all like to follow Instagram and what little Susie's doing, and so they can see what your class is doing as well. So elementary, you could create a class. Middle school, high school, you could create your class Instagram and like let students follow you because that's just for your class. You can post images like this, and I have a friend who's a high school English teacher, and so they may be studying active action verbs, and so students have to create sentences underneath in the comments using action verbs to describe the picture, or adjectives, or anything like that. You could also create a hashtag. I witnessed an art teacher who created a hashtag and they were studying perspective. So the students all had to go out and take pictures of perspective, of whatever their definition of perspective was. Use the hashtag. The teacher in the Instagram search feature looked at that hashtag and brought up all the images, and they talked about perspective that way. So the students provided all the images for the lesson, and then the teacher could support the lesson as well. Memes. Using meme creators. This was from memecreator.com. I need professional development for this technology, said no student ever. Okay. My son actually created this for me when he was 9 because he didn't understand why I went and trained teachers on how to use technology. She's like, don't they just start clicking? That's what we do. And I'm like, no. So using memes, there's one that's like unhelpful teacher. And it's like this perfect teacher like standing there, and so like putting funny things on there, sentences, a question of the day, engaging the students in the success baby, using that, as they're getting ready to take a test of some sort. ThingLink is another great digital tool. So I talked about using infographics for creating posters and things like that. You can then step it up a little bit and go into ThingLink. So with ThingLink, you can upload an image, and then you can create, here's one that I created, and I actually did this for one of my classes I teach, because we are talking about tech tools that you can use. And so I have like different videos talking about the 21st century learner. And then I have like some screencasting tools and links that will take you to that. So students can create an image, or they're studying something, they can upload an image, and then they can take you to links of a video they created. They can take you to a website that supports whatever the topic is. So they can now, several teachers use this for electronic portfolios. So each student has their own electronic portfolio using ThingLink as well. So I have some examples here. Interactive presentation, there's Nearpod that we're using, VoiceThread, Blabberrise, Voki. So I have different links that people can use. And I use this sometimes for an alternative to PowerPoint as well. So I'll upload an image, and then as I talk through, then I'll go through and I'll click and I'll talk about each one of them as well. So that's a great tool that you can use as well. Answering essential questions, discussion and feedback, because you can write text in there. So you could upload an image and then have students leave feedback and analyze the image as well. All right, and then video storytelling. And then Carl Hooker mentioned a lot of it this morning about YouTube. And how, now when we need to find out information, I don't go and look for an article on how to fix something. I go to YouTube and I find it, I watch it a little bit, I pause it, I go and I do that, and I pause it. And that happened to me this last week. I had a code come up on my car that I couldn't get rid of, and I think it was one of those where it cost like $99 to go and have the dealership correct it. So I just Googled it, found a YouTube video on how to get rid of the code, and I was like, yes! I was able to find it. So video storytelling. So images are powerful, but with today, we also have the power of videos to support images. So Animoto, Powtoon, Sock Puppets, and Telegami are favorite video storytelling tools. Animoto is available across platforms as well. Here is an example that we had some students create. Project for 7th grade geography. And in the past, the teacher had used where they did the travel brochure and they had to find facts and do it. So instead, the teacher decided to do the video this year. How long do you think it took the students to create this video?
It didn't take that, just getting the slide was the hardest part. And then once you get it, it's, this is,
How long?
10 minutes, 15 minutes?
10, 15 minutes? Any other guesses?
Probably took a class period by the time they go out there and look for
Okay.
information and get stuff. They would do it pretty quick.
Yes.
Putting the actual thing together was quick.
It's
but
quick.
gathering
The
information-
research.
So they had the requirements. They divided up their group of who was going to get what image and write down the information. So they had that collected in their Google Drive. And then I came in and showed them Animoto, and literally they created it in about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Because Animoto does the automatic transitions for you.
Yeah.
So it looks like really professional. And it's like, wow, that's super easy. I'm going to put on the digital literacy website how to get the Animoto educator account.
Yeah.
Because if you sign up for Animoto, and that's what I tell people, go ahead and sign up for Animoto, you can create videos up to 30 seconds. But then if you apply for the educator account, you can do like up to 10 to 15 minutes of videos. And of course, we really don't want more than 10 minutes because it's not going to keep
See, and I had just used it in my class to share pictures of things they were doing. I never thought of using it as a way for kids to share their learning.
Yes.
This is awesome.
Absolutely. I worked with 7th grade math students. My colleague and I went in, and they were a one-to-one iPad school, and so they had to take pictures of their learning throughout the week and what we did with them. And so for their final part of the week, they had to create an animoto showing what they learned.
Yeah.
And so that was their exit ticket, and they had to include pictures. So they had to include a group picture. They had to include different pictures that they had taken throughout the week. But then one of the things that we had to do is they had to put what they knew about the topic beforehand, and we had them write that down and save it. So they put that into the animoto and the words and labeled for each person, and then what they learned at the end. So that was pretty fascinating. Animoto is great. It's got all kinds of free like songs and stuff that you can use that, but you can also, like on my phone and on my computer, I have my iTunes account set up, so you can choose. And so that was one of the lessons we taught about choosing an appropriate song, a school approved song to help support your learning, because they had fun with selecting their song as well. Let's see, you could use it. I have my pre-service teachers. They use this to introduce a new unit. So they have to create a unit plan. You know, they're learning how to be teachers. They have to create a unit plan. And so one of the things they have to do is create an animoto video as a hook to show the students about the content that they're going to learn about in the unit. And then they talk about it as well. All right, so Powtoon, P-O-W-T-O-O-N, is available at powtoon.com. And I'm going to just show you one that I created. So I use this to introduce a session that I was teaching. Pedagogy came before technology. Yeah. So that's Powtoon. That took me, I always do that, hit escape. That took me about probably 5 minutes because I used one of the templates that they already had created in Powtoon. Okay, get out there. Here we go. There's I have included on here, under digital tools, some other examples. I created one on digital storytelling. So it's great, you could do one on a content area and have that to play instead of necessarily you telling everything about it. Oh, here's Padlet. A participant in a session I presented this, showed this, they had manipulatives for the science thing, and then the students took the pictures and then did the phases as well. So that was pretty cool. I forgot. See, I have lots of stuff in it. Here's one that I created on content. So instead of telling,
It might seem crazy what I'm about to say.
so I knew what I wanted to say, and I just wanted to put it into the video format. So instead of me telling all about it, I used Powtoon to create the video. I had a student who was starting a unit, and it was on chocolate, and she was doing something with chocolate, so she created a cute little video that, you know, had the content with it, but the student, she said, she's like, I should have recorded it because they were all just sitting there like watching it. And then they remembered the little images that supported the learning as well. The next tool, that's what happens when I click out of it, is sock puppets. Anybody use sock puppets? It's an iPad, iPhone app. It's one of my absolute favorites. I have used this from pre-K all the way up through graduate students. I use this a lot for announcements because surprisingly my grad students will not read the emails I send to them with like important information. So I create sock puppets announcements. I used it for, let's see, second graders, and they had a math problem they solved, and then they used sock puppets to describe what they learned or how they solved the math problem. I've used it in science classes, high school science classes, to describe the science experiment that they were working on. So I have used it, you know, so here's a picture.
I'm so excited that our class is working on a service project and collecting bottles of
So they
water.
always have to write their script before we give them the technology.
So my mom went to the store and bought 6 packs with 6 bottles each. So that's 36 bottles. How many bottles have you brought in?
I have brought in 18 bottles.
How did you bring in 18 bottles?
I brought in 3 packs with 6 bottles in each container.
Oh, that's really cool. So if you brought in 18 and I brought in 36, how many would that be?
Let's see. Carry the 1. 54 bottles.
Wow, just between the two of us, we have 54 bottles. So if our class goal is 300, how many do we still need to meet our goal?
Let's see. I got 246.
Wow, that's what I got too. Man, we have a lot of work to do.
All right, so for this one, I have my little privacy thing. Let's see. So for this one, they had the math problem. They had to solve the math problem before, and then write a script. And we're working in partners for this particular activity. And then they were able to use the sock puppet. And we gave them probably 3 minutes to play around with sock puppets because you can change the voice. It can be really high, it can be really low. And a lot of kids who are really nervous about presenting in front of people love sock puppets because it scrubs the voice. So, because everyone's like, I don't like hearing myself. I don't like hearing myself talk. So with this, they're able to go in and create it. This one was a little bit longer because I had purchased the full sock puppets instead of the free. The free one is like 30 seconds. So it's great to help students narrow down their focus and what they're going to say. Because they can actually say a lot in 30 seconds. So this is a great tool to use for summaries. And like I said, I've used this with pre-K all the way up through graduate students as well. All right, the next one, as I have to, every time, is telegami. Telegami is very similar to sock puppets, but it has like an avatar that students can create. I work in a lot of schools. There's one school I've worked with, and they have 26 different countries represented in the school. And so when I first brought this to the 3rd grade class I was working with, they were amazed because they said, I can make it look like me. And they were not used to having something. So this was one where they had read Stuart Little in class, and they had to write about it.
Hi, this is Christian, and I like Stuart Little because Stuart goes on the line things. And even though he is a really small mouse, he does a lot of big things.
All right, so in 30 seconds, he was able to tell what he liked about Stuart Little. The teacher then took all of them and was able to then put them all into iMovie and link them all together and have the students tell everything that they liked about the book, and they were able to watch it. And then the teacher shared it out. Telegami right now is just an iPad or an app, but it will give you a link that you can share, so then you can go and you can type it in. All right, I keep hitting the wrong button. Yes, all right. And this was another one, another Gammy.
Hello, I'm going to talk about vaccines. Vaccines support the immune system to stop viruses. They can help stop them by putting in medicine that will help stop the viruses from spreading.
All right, so that was just another example, and there are a couple more examples. And then one of my favorite digital tools that's been around for a long time are word clouds. This is great. I love to do this as a community building. As you know, you have every student's name down. Every student will go on through a Google form and write down one word to describe each student. You can collate them together and create a word cloud describing the students, and then cut it out and frame it, little Dollar Tree frames, and then have a little gift to give to students. I do this a lot too for people's birthdays. I'll just write some words about them. So here's one that I created, but this is great also in the classroom. So I did a discussion board post using a learning management system, and I took everything that the students posted and put it into a word cloud, and then showed the students the word cloud. So that way they saw learner, focus, deductive, needs of learners, and inductive were the top words that were posted. So obviously that would mean the most to the students. I've done this with passages. You take a passage and you create a word cloud before you even show the passage to students, and then you have them circle, what do you think this means? What do you think we're going to talk about with this word? Also with famous speeches like compare and contrast, and using word clouds to compare and contrast. I've used this with, it was 3rd grade again, and it was the say anything strategy. So we read a passage together, a story, and then I had the students think of the word that popped out the most to them in the particular story, and they all went through the iPad, and they all typed the word and passed it on, typed the word and passed it on. So we created a word cloud, and there were 5 3rd grade classrooms. I worked with one of them, and then there were 4 other teachers who also did the same activity. And then we compared, in the PLC meeting, we compared the word clouds from all 5 classes to look at the meaning and the critical thinking behind it. So these are just some digital tools for visual literacy and thinking about the power of using images to support learning. So I have a little Nearpod question. One thing you're taking away that you can apply immediately into your practice. And while some of you are thinking about it, anybody want to volunteer any?
I'm a librarian, so I like to have the kids make book trailers, and I think that Telegami and sock puppets would be good.
Mm-hmm. Then you can create a QR code.
We actually did augmented reality instead, so they can put their videos on there.
I love it. Mm-hmm. Great.
I'd like to use social media to have them do Instagram posts about any activity they do outside of the classroom, because I teach PE and there's not a lot of stuff we can do hands-on during the classroom all the time. So if they could do it outside when they're doing their stuff that might not be sports related, I think that'd be cool.
Awesome. And speaking of that, reminded me, I didn't talk about it here, but Vine, through Twitter, I have a friend who's a high school science teacher, and so they use Vine to do 6-second content. And it's showing the students, so like PE, showing them how to properly hit a baseball or softball or whatever you're studying. Excellent. One more idea.
It keeps flipping back.
Keeps flipping back.
Yeah.
Our kids this year used Google Slides to do their science fair projects instead of the stupid trifold boards.
Yes.
But we were just talking last night about how nice that was. So I'll share infographics, and maybe they can actually present using that instead.
Great idea. Well, I hope that you were able to take at least one thing away, and that you'll be able to use it, and hopefully you'll be able to, share visual literacy with lots of other people as well, not only your students, but other people that you work with as well. So thank you guys so much for coming.
Thank you.